Okay,
Commissioner Skolnick, 3:30.
3:30. All right, we'll call the Ways and Means Committee to order. I'm not sure who's taking a roll, but is it Kristen?
Kristen.
Okay, if you take the roll, please, Kristen.
Oh, real quick, Commissioner Snyder cannot join us, so he's excused.
Okay.
Commissioner Foster,
Here.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Here.
Commissioner Hughes. I'm sorry, Chairman Hughes.
Not answering to either one.
Commissioner Loring,
Here.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Here.
Commissioner Nash. Commissioner Nash. I'll come back to that. Commissioner Wilkins.
Here.
Commissioner Snyder is excused. Chairman Hughes. Commissioner Nash. There are 5 present and 1 excused.
You didn't call me, but I'm here.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Commissioner Skolnick.
And
There's 6
Commissioner,
present.
Chairman Hughes was here for the work session, and so was Commissioner Nash. So I don't know where they went, but okay.
They're on, there's muted. Commissioner Hughes, are you here?
She signed in, I just can't see her or hear her. I don't see Commissioner Nash who signed in, so but we do have a quorum.
All right, the first item is the approval of the minutes of August 6th. I would entertain a motion for that, please.
Mark,
moved.
can you hear me? Second.
You're there, Susie.
Okay, we have a motion. It's been supported. Are there any comments or corrections on the minutes of August 6th? If not, we'll vote. Kristen, I'm going to drive you crazy. You're going to need a roll call for everyone. For
Sure.
every motion. Roll call, please.
Okay. Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes. Chairman Hughes. Commissioner Loring,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash. Commissioner Nash,
What are we voting on?
approval of
minutes.
minutes.
Approval of the minutes, Charles.
Yes.
And Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes. Okay, so the minutes of August 6th are approved. The next item is public comment on an agenda item. If anyone in the public, there are 23 people on the call. If anyone would like to make a comment on an item that is on the agenda today, this is your opportunity. Does anybody see anything? Anybody? I don't see any. I'm looking. All right, then we'll keep going. We'll move on to items for consideration. Let me get rid of that screen here. Okay. The first item is WM 20/08-64 to approve payment of the accounts payable of $14,111,357.83, covering the period of July 18th, 2020 through August 6th, 2020 for checks and electronic fund transfer payments covering the period July 1st, 2020 through July 31st, 2020, as presented by the county clerk.
So move.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion that's been supported. There's 21 items on the detail sheet with that are the most substantial of the items. Are there any discussion on this?
Bob, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a comment.
Yes, please.
So I'm going to make the same comment again. I'm opposing this motion. I would like to see these payments over $100,000 separated into separate motions so we can scrutinize individual payments.
Okay.
Commissioner,
That would be most every one.
Commissioner Mahoney, did you have a comment?
I have a question. Just how are we handling the drain commissioners, our reimbursement for what we're paying?
Beth, the Director of Finance. I'm not sure, Commissioner Mahoney, what you mean by our reimbursement. For what
Well, I see the expenses going out, and I'm assuming we're paying,
the 20% whenever she gets the projects done,
right?
then they're being assessed and the county's responsible for 20%.
Okay,
So these are projects in process at the moment.
right. Yeah, I had assumed that we weren't into it for that much. I thought maybe those were payments that she was bonding for or whatever.
Some of them are, yes. She's
Yeah.
either getting, most of them, I think, at this point are where she's gotten notes rather
Okay,
than bonds to actually do the actual construction. And then once the projects are done, then they go on the assessment roll. I know the ride drain is one project that she has bonded up until now, or not bonded, excuse me, gotten notes for up until
Right.
now. And then he does plan on coming to the board regarding a bond issue in the near future, in the next few months, because that project is quite large.
thank you.
Bob, I have a comment too, if I could.
Yes, Susie, go ahead, please.
Beth, I think that's one of the reasons I would like to see some income statements too, so that we can see how much the drain commissioner is paying us back compared to what we're loaning her. We don't ever get to see the income, we just get to see the expenses. So could we start getting some income so we know where the money is coming in from?
Something that shows the various notes and whatnot that the drain commissioner has gotten as far as being able to pay for her construction. Is that what you're looking for?
I'd like to see that, but I'd like to see, we always see the money that goes out, but we never see how it actually comes into the county.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Does it
I
come
do.
in? If we could see that, I think it would be helpful for us to understand a little better.
Okay.
Thank
Beth,
you.
Beth, the only money that would come in for the drain work would come in when the taxes are paid. Is that correct?
Well, I think correct me if I'm wrong, what Chairman Hughes is asking for is, in addition to what you're referring to as far as the assessment revenue, I think she's also referring to like the money that she's borrowing for these projects, unless I misunderstood.
Yes, and to see what's coming back in. When she borrows, that money should come back into the county to offset what we loaned her in the first place. So we can kind of
Right.
see that, you know.
Well, for the most part, the county's, the money that's being spent here is through the notes that she's getting and any bond issues that might still be out there. I think those bond issues are pretty much all spent by now, the previous ones. But the revolving fund that the board approved to be set up for her a couple of years ago is a very small amount. So the majority of these dollars that you're seeing on this list are being paid for out of the notes that she's taken out, which don't need to, those notes don't need to come to the board for approval. It's only when she's doing a bond issue that she needs the county's full faith and credit for. But I think I gather what you're looking for, so we'll try to get something put together for that.
Thank you, I'd appreciate that.
Okay. If there's nothing else, we'll vote on this. Roll call, Kristen, please.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes,
Yes,
Commissioner Loring,
No.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
and Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes. Okay, the next item is WM 20/08-65 to approve setting the electronic public hearing date for the fiscal year 2021 proposed Muskegon County budget for Tuesday, September 8th, 2020 at 3:30 p.m. and to authorize the publication of a notice of public hearing in the newspaper of general circulation on or before August 30th, 2020.
So moved.
moved. Support.
Okay, we have a motion. It's been supported. This is the normal public hearing process for the budget. Is there any comments on this?
I have a comment, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Zach.
Question for the administration. We talked a little bit briefly about doing some form of a hybrid meeting where we could actually meet and those commissioners that could meet, and then potentially some of the public that wanted to come in could meet, or they could Zoom into the meeting, that we could somehow do a hybrid of both a physical public meeting and a Zoom meeting combined together. Any thoughts on that for the administration?
Oh, this is Mark. We did check several locations to put more than 10 people in a room. That's our limitation. And then once you get those 10 people in the room, they have to be 6 foot apart. So our current boardroom, I would have to remove every other seat up there where the board sits and put those in the audience, and which would not have a mic. They would have to walk up to the mic. So we have not found a room where everybody has a mic plus 10 people or more as of the day.
Okay.
So if you're okay with less than 10 people and spread out in that room and everybody else is on Zoom, then we could do some type of.
I don't know how many of the commissioners would actually to attend that or how much public, but value in meeting face to face with these discussions. And maybe we have public that kind of rotate in and out. If there was a large cadre of individual public that wanted to comment, they could, very much like we did earlier in the year out at the mat. Not everybody fit in the building at one time, but people kind of came in and left. I just see value in meeting face to face versus over this Zoom process.
I have a comment on that. Go ahead.
We wouldn't be able to videotape at McMurray. Well, they have to set it all up. It's set up already, and I mean, there'd be a problem with that.
I also don't have a problem with doing it this way because
No, I
no
don't
matter
either.
where we go, we can get more people on this than we can in any space we've had so far. We have a lot of people on this quite often. So I'm not uncomfortable with this at all.
All right. Then we need to vote on 65. Did we vote on this already? I don't think so.
We did not.
No, we did not.
No.
Okay, Kristen, roll call, please.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hobie Wright,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Loring,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins, Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes.
All
Okay.
yeses.
Move on to WM 20/08-66 to amend the fiscal year 2020 budget as presented.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Foster, support by Commissioner Mahoney. Any discussion on this?
Could Beth please explain the revisions?
Certainly. Kristen, can you move to the be the next page, I think? No.
Page 9.
Yeah,
Page
page
9.
9. All right, this is the general fund budget revision, and I provided quite a myriad of narrative behind this to
Yes.
try to explain what the changes are. And I'll just kind of go down the various categories of revenues and expenditures and kind of give you the highlights. And if you have any, if there's something I don't cover, I'd be happy to try to answer those questions. So just let me know. Looking at revenues, we started out with a $50.3 million budget. That's our current budget. And we're amending that to 54.3 million. And you can see the various categories that have been adjusted. Transfers in are going down about $1 million, and that is where we're transferring money from not only the delinquent tax revolving fund, which is being reduced an amount of, we started out with $1.6 million transfer, and that's been reduced to about $1.1 million, and that is because we continue to have less funds available in the delinquent tax fund to be able to transfer to the general fund, because fewer people are paying their taxes delinquent. They're paying them on time, so we don't have the fees and the interest that go into that fund that are available to be transferred to the general fund. And another transfer that's also built into that category is a transfer from the tax forfeiture fund. We had assumed a $400,000 transfer in the original budget, and due to the recent outcome of a state Supreme Court ruling, those funds are not available for us to transfer to the general fund. So we had to remove those dollars from the revised budget projections. The state line item is being reduced by $878,000, and that's basically revenue sharing related. The state announced that they are withholding our August revenue sharing payment. We get paid every 2 months, and the last payment of the year is actually in August. The state has decided to withhold that payment from us to help balance the state's budget. However, there is a replacement revenue that you'll see a little bit farther down under the federal line item, $1.3 million, that has been added to the budget because that's CARES Act money that is being allowed to not substitute for that because it can't be used for revenue losses, but it can be used to cover COVID-related expenses that we've incurred. So I sat through a webinar last week and was told that those payments will go out by the end of this month, the $1.3 million, which is a number that I've estimated because they've said it's equal to 1.5 times what our August payment would have been. So I've calculated that based on our payment, and I'm assuming that's what the amount will be, but they have not given us a list of how that breaks down by county. But I believe that should be a fairly accurate number. The caveat with that, I'm sorry, someone has a question?
No, go ahead, finish your sentence. I do
Okay.
have a question.
Okay. So the caveat with that is, as I mentioned, it can't be used to cover revenue losses. So we have to, they're going to send us the money, and we have basically until December 30th to substantiate $1.3 million worth of expenses that we've incurred that relate to COVID. But they have indicated through the webinars that I've sat through and what I've read and researched that it sounds like we can use it to cover costs that we've incurred similar to the grant we applied for earlier this year to cover payroll costs associated with COVID. So it sounds like we'll be able to come up with $1.3 million worth of eligible expenses based on what I've learned to date, but there's still more guidance to come out on that.
Yeah,
Bobby?
Beth, we got this report from GCSI and dated August 14th. And it said, this is regarding the state revenue, that the state revenue, the general fund and school aid fund were up 1.1 billion. The sales tax is an increase of 18.5%. And we're 81 million over projections in single business tax and Michigan business tax. So how can they justify not giving us state revenue sharing?
Well, what I know is that for the county revenue sharing, it's not tied directly to the sales tax collections. It's a statutory determined revenue allocation. And so the state can choose to withhold it. Now, I don't know specifically, when they make the determination of what they're gonna do to help balance the budget and what they choose and what they don't choose, but we've been notified that that last payment of the year is being withheld. How they can justify it is not something I can answer.
Probably not, but it seems like we ought to rattle some cages on that.
Kristen, could you move the back up a little bit? I'm still on revenues. Thank you. Okay, so I've covered the state line and I've covered the federal line, which is farther down going the other way. Charges for services are down about 1.1 million, and that's across many different areas. A lot of this is really related to the COVID crisis that has caused these revenues to decline. Our jail inmate reimbursement revenue has decreased 415,000. We have less inmates in the jail and we're getting less reimbursement. Now, the offset to that is there is some reduction in cost there as well. We also have dog license revenue is anticipated to be lower by about 142,000. The district court revenues is also decreasing 141,000, mainly due to COVID. And then there's various other charges for services within many departments that are about 191,000 lower than the original budget. So the majority of that $1.1 million decrease is really COVID related. If we go to the contributions from private sources, that's going up 562,000, and that all relates to the DTE Test and Tune program. And there was an expansion of that program that included the distribution of more water heaters and home insulations. So there was additional revenue available there, but that's offset by additional expenses down under the expenditure category. So there's really a net zero impact there.
Beth, when you do that, could you put that in there? Because I can see down under expenditures, you've got the DTE program, but you've got it included in something else up here. So we can't see how it came in and how it went out.
I can rename it because really that whole line item, contributions from private sources, is the DTE Test and Tune program.
Okay, that would be helpful, I think.
Or I can put it in parentheses. That's just a category name that we have built into our finance system, so it just comes out that way.
All right.
But that's really all that line is the DTE Test and Tune program.
Because that makes a lot of sense, but not having them name the same thing going in as the money coming out is confusing.
Correct. Sorry. We'll get that clarified. So
I had a question on
sure.
jail. If we've had a reduction in that population, have we also seen a decrease in the reduction of staff or overtime hours?
Not in staff and not in overtime. Where there has been some reduction is in some of the medical costs associated with the jail, which I'll cover under the contractual services area in just a minute, but not really associated with staffing. They have not reduced any staffing in the jail.
You know, that seems unusual not to reduce some staffing and not to reduce, is there any indication how much they saved in food or things like that too?
I just have information that they've saved in the contractual medical services. I don't know that they've really saved, I mean, there's an amount that is per meal that's charged by the contractual service provider for the meals in the jail. And I believe there might have even been some sort of an increase there because of the population being lower. I would have to get that. I don't know if the sheriff's online at all in the meeting.
No, I did not see him.
Okay.
Unless he's on a phone number.
I can try to get some more information on specifically on meals, but I know there was some reduction in the medical costs.
And I would think the laundry and everything, there would be a reduction for just for the less inmates.
Right.
I believe the inmates do the laundry, so.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a reduction? I mean, what is the number? That's what I want to know.
The number of inmates?
Yes.
We
I
can do
will
that
have-
for you.
Yeah, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but we can get that.
Yeah, and I was just making sure we double check and see if there's been any reduction in overtime.
No, there has not. I know they've got some vacancies and I believe 2 positions that are vacant. So the overtime has had to offset those vacancies. Okay, and then in terms of revenues, we have the new line item of bond proceeds, which was for the judgment bonds that were issued back in June. And those were not part of the original budget as well. And there's a corresponding expenditure transferring those proceeds out. So the net impact of that is 0 to the entire budget. Any questions on revenues?
I just have one comment on revenues. You know, I hate to see other over $1 million, especially when you manage to come up with $15 under licenses and permits. That just seems crazy to me.
I try to break those out for you.
You did
Madam
good.
Chair. Okay, so going on to expenditures, if you could go down the page a little bit, Kristen, thank you. So salaries and fringe benefits, kind of cover both of them together. Wages are decreasing a total of about $605,000. And that overall decrease is primarily attributable to the savings achieved as a result of the employees that we've had on both 100% furlough as well as those that have participated in the work share program, all related to the COVID-19 crisis. There was some offsetting increase that's built into this number of about $118,000 increase in overtime. That was related to the sheriff jail budget. So their overtime actually did go up from what was in the original budget by $118,000, and that was because of the vacant positions that they had. Fringe benefits are decreasing by $269,000, and the decrease is somewhat attributable also to the furlough savings because there was less FICA taxes that were needed to be paid, a total of a decrease of $83,000. Medical insurance also decreased from the original budget by $61,000, even though the county did continue to pay the insurance on all of those furloughed employees. Our benefit option, which is payment in lieu of those taking medical insurance, decreased by $34,000. Dental insurance costs decreased by $12,000. Retiree medical costs decreased by $28,000. And then the projected costs associated with sick and vacation payouts decreased by $97,000. Offsetting all of those decreases was a little bit of an increase in pension costs of $42,000. So netting all those individual things together, I just kind of highlighted some of the larger ones. We had an overall decrease of $269,000. Supplies is actually going up about 43,000, and a lot of that is really COVID related. There was increases in printing, paper and office supplies, postage, but also there was an increase in election supplies. It was more than what was the amount needed was more than what was put in the original budget. But a lot of those costs, again, are incurred because of COVID, and we are still, looking for eligible grant funding to cover those costs. I'm finding a lot of those grants that we're able to apply for do not cover the types of costs we've incurred, such as the signage.
No,
We okay?
Mr. Hughes?
yeah, I'm fine, thank you. It wasn't me.
Oh, was it?
No, it was not me. You
Oh,
thought I was after a cat. No, I think
That's
somebody
what I
after a
thought.
kid.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
No, I was not attacked by a cat.
That's good. So whoever that was, I hope you're okay.
So as I started to say, that the grants that we're being notified of, a lot of the costs that we've incurred, such as the signage that we've put in the buildings and the hand sanitizing stations and the plexiglass shields that have been put up, I'm having difficulty finding grants that will cover those specific costs because they're considered operational and not, I don't know what the proper wording is, but they're not mitigating the COVID crisis to the public, which I would not always agree with that. They make it sound like it's only to protect the employees and not the public, which I see our employees are here to serve the public. So I think it goes both ways. So I'm still trying to find answers. The one grant that you approved last week for the $433,000, the CDBG grant, I'm researching and asking questions of whether some of those costs can be covered by that grant. So still hoping that we can get some grant reimbursement for some of those extra supplies that we've incurred.
Beth, don't forget the people that are at the door, even though they're on loan from a different department, those wages that are being paid are for COVID related when they're checking your temperature and taking those things at the door.
Right. Yep.
Just trying to come up with anything we can.
No, I know. That's something we're working on. So, and then contractual services is decreasing about 262,000. Again, as I mentioned, 195 of that is due to a decrease in the contractual medical services in the jail. Also, a reduction in the cost of the mental health services that is charged by Health West to the jail. That was about $40,000 of the decrease due to the lower inmate population. We also have various other contractual services throughout the county that are decreasing 63,000, and offsetting that is an increase in legal fees of 100,000, all within that category. The next line, the DTE program costs, as mentioned on the revenue side, this is also increasing 579,000 due to the expansion of those programs. So there's an increase in revenues and a corresponding increase in expenses. Capital, I'm just going to pick some of the larger ones. Capital outlay decreased 100,000. We had originally built in the budget kind of a placeholder for some improvements at the fairgrounds based on past history, and there haven't been any improvements that have taken place this year, and it's close to the end of the year. So we've removed the expense associated with any improvements happening this year at the fairgrounds. Staff travel and development is decreasing by about 60,000 because people are not traveling to conferences and just traveling in general due to COVID-19. Overhead is increasing 61,000, and primarily due to an increase that we've in a new projection on the IT chargeback that gets charged to the general fund based on an updated projection there. Insurance premiums going up about 91,000, and that's based on, it's for the general liability, property, and auto insurance costs that are go into the insurance fund, but then get allocated out to all the other funds based on actual claims incurred. So that number went up based on current projection of the actual claims happening in that fund. The transfer of the judgment bond proceeds, I mentioned, is offsetting the actual bond issuance. And then the debt service line item represents the bond issuance costs associated with those judgment bond proceeds. So in total, we now have expenses of 55.6 million or thereabouts. Oh, I didn't talk about transfers. Transfers is a little bit higher up. It only had a change of 53,000. We did have decreases. That's where we have transfers to all the other funds outside the general fund that require general fund support. There was a decrease in the appropriation to the Public Defender's Office, their Indigent Defense Fund of 93,000, the Child Care Fund of 175, and Community Corrections of 55. Offsetting those was an increase in the appropriation to Family Court of 311,000, but the net of all those is only the $53 decrease. So in total, we're showing now 55.6 million of expenses, 54.3 million in revenues, showing a deficit currently of $1,280,000. And what I wanted to point out is that we still have the grant application that was submitted back in July for public health and public safety payroll reimbursements under the CARES Act. We have not received notification of that award yet. I did sit through a webinar last week on that as well. And they mentioned that there's a $200 million pot of money for those applications. They received over 600 applications across the state. They feel that the 200 million, they won't have a round two. Originally, they said if they didn't get enough requests from the initial application period that they would have a round two, but it sounds like they'll have at least 200 million in requests. So we would get hopefully a portion of that. But if we are to get the 2.1 million that we asked for, of that, about 1.8 million would help the general fund because that's related to payroll reimbursements of public safety. And a lot of that is in the general fund. There was also some court. We included sheriff payroll. We included some of the courts. We included the JTC. We included emergency services. So we included a lot of things under public safety, but a lot of that would be within the general fund. So if we get awarded that grant or some portion of what we asked for, that would only help to offset that $1.2 million deficit. So I've said a lot in that amount of time. Is there any questions on the
Actually,
general?
Beth, I think it's better than I was expecting it to be.
It seems to me like the staff has done a really good job in keeping the costs down, for the expenses down, given all the changes in revenue and whatnot. You know, it's kind of a big task, and you've done well.
The furloughs and the work share program, those have been a huge help to the budget this year to offset the revenues that we've lost, as well as you know, some of the other expenses that we've incurred as it relates to COVID. So it's been a long process to try to keep up with the current fiscal year and then still work on putting the budget together for next year.
Well, and we need to thank staff for their role in cutting back on employee expenses.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
And we had several volunteer furloughs as well, so
That's what I
everybody
mean.
chipped in to help quite a bit.
We have great staff at the county. They've really stepped up.
All right.
Agreed.
We
I don't know if-
move on.
I don't know if you want to go through any of the other funds. I do have
No.
narrative in your packet, but
They're in my packet.
Bob wants to control the meeting.
Yeah, I think we need to move on. We need to vote on item 66. That's the amendment, the budget amendment that Beth just discussed. So Kristen, could you call the roll for that, please?
Commissioner Wilkins,
I'd like to indicate that I'm now back on board after having left the LRA board meeting.
thank you.
Great, welcome.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm
Commissioner
sure this is
Snyder,
more fun.
Kristen?
yes. Are you gonna vote on this, Commissioner Snyder, or did you hear any of it?
I prefer to pass on this. I just came in.
Okay. Commissioner Wilkins, Commissioner Wilkins,
She's on
Commissioner-
mute. Go ahead and
okay.
to the next one.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
No.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
and Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes. Okay. That passed, am I correct? Okay. We'll move on. WM 20/08-67 to approve the prosecutor to apply for and accept the fiscal year 2021 Stop Violence Against Women grant.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any questions on this one?
Bob, I have one comment on this. When we have a grant that comes through, or they're applying for a grant that we have to accept, I like the way this is worded, that gives them the opportunity to apply and accept. If it's different than was applied for, they can come back. But otherwise, I like the way this is worded very much.
Commissioner Hughes, we could go in the future, make sure we word it that way. For you, permission to apply for the grant and accept it if we receive it.
Yes, I mean, if the motion is, if it comes back different than they applied for it, they can always come back. But sometimes these grants are very time sensitive, as Beth has pointed out to us numerous times. So I'd like to be able to accept them and grant, apply and accept together. That's very good. Thank you.
All right, Kristen, could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Chair, I just have a question, if I may, if DJ is on, or where is the 25% in-kind match to this going to come from?
DJ Hilson, prosecutor. Where that comes from is other attorneys other than the stop grant prosecutor working on some of these cases, which we'll make that 25% easily. So this grant covers all our domestic violence cases, and we handle about 900 of those a year. So it's really just kind of almost like a work share amongst the office. But my lawyers keep timesheets so that we can accurately present to the grantors the in-kind match.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll vote.
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins, Commissioner Wilkins, Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes. Okay, that passed. The next item is WM 20/08-68 to approve a 3-year lease agreement expiring on September 30th, 2023 between the county and Family Outreach Center, and authorize the chair to sign the agreement.
So move.
Support.
Or,
With motion and support, this is an ongoing lease in the Oak Street building next to the old General Hospital. Are there any questions before we vote?
I do have a question on that. Do they pay for any kind of common area maintenance, including the outside parking lot or maintenance or mowing or anything?
Matt Fair, Public Works. When we do these leases, because of the metering situation, is we take a look at the historical total cost, which includes the common areas, what you're saying, and we assign so much of the cost to the renters. We do it that way. So yes, their lease would include that. We have the base cost of the building. We have a factor in for that as well.
Thank you very much.
And just so you know, we have 3 people in there, Terry Health, Family Outreach, and the sheriff. And Carly tells me since we redid those Terry Health lease, we're not using any of our money, county funds to take care of and maintain the place.
That's good news. Thank you.
Okay. Kristen, roll call, please.
Commissioner Hovey-Wright,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney,
yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder, Commissioner Snyder, Commissioner Wilkins,
Call from Charlevoix and I.
Commissioner Wilkins, Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes. All right. The next item is WM 20/08-69 to approve the ongoing contract with Title Check LLC beginning May 1st, 2019, and continuing for a period of 5 years, concluding on April 30th, 2024. This contract is to provide services under the scope of Public Act 123 of 1999 to the Muskegon County Treasurer, acting in its official duty as the foreclosing governmental unit for the County of Muskegon.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion that's been supported. Is Tony, or is there anybody from the Treasurer's office on this call?
I'll check. Tony or Dan, are you on the call? I don't see them listed.
Okay, we did have some additional, there were some questions about this in the pre-meeting, and it turns out that this Title Check LLC is doing this work for the bulk of the counties in Michigan and doing it for the state of Michigan too.
Correct.
You want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just repeat what they told us. I think it's in here as well, 65 counties out of the 82.
83.
In the state of 83. And the state of Michigan also uses.
All right, are there any questions on this one? If not, Kristen, roll call, please.
Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster.
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you. Commissioner Hovey-Wright,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes. Okay, very good, thank you. The next item is WM 20/08-70 to authorize the Muskegon County Department of Veterans Affairs personnel apply for the 2021 State of Michigan County Veteran Service Fund grant.
I would like to make that
So
motion
moved.
with the addition that it will be to approve them applying and accept.
Yes, second.
Support.
Okay, so who, did you make the motion, Susie?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay, you're making the motion with that amendment?
Yes,
Okay, and Marcia, you're okay, right? You
Yes.
seconded it. Okay. So the motion is as written, except it, apply and accept.
yes, that's correct.
Okay. Is Admiral Bow on the line? Oh,
Yeah.
there he is. Okay. You want to say anything about this, Mike?
Hello, Commissioner Skolnick. This is Mike Bow. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We've been in communication with the state grant team on this. Initially, our award is going to be $68,000. $67,588 will be our initial award. That did not take into consideration all the money that was not spent by all of the counties in fiscal year 20 that's going to go into a pot and then hopefully redistributed. So I'm hoping we'll see somewhere closer to $80,000 to $85,000 a year. There are more counties applying than there were the previous 2 years, but still not all 83 counties.
Okay, and Mike, this grant so allows you to help peacetime veterans, is that correct?
We've put it in there for our budget to help with the peacetime veteran assistance. We've been doing that all year this year with it and the previous year. It allows us to hire retain a person at the front desk to help with customer service so that we can help accomplish the national objectives of doing more outreach and attending more, going out and talking to people more about what we do and seeing if we can get more people involved with getting their benefits. And it also has money built into the existing plan to send us to our accreditation training. All three of those are meeting the national objectives of the grant. And then in the event that we get awarded more funds, we'll prioritize and we'll put more money back into the peacetime veterans assistance as well. So we have that continued.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Are there any questions?
Bob, I have a comment if I could, please.
Yes, Susie, go ahead, please.
I'd just like to thank Mike Bow for accepting the position on the USS Silverside's Board of Directors. He's been a big asset there, and he reaches some veterans that we had not been able to reach through the Veterans Affairs there. And I really appreciate that, Mike. Thank you for stepping up and doing that for us.
Thank you, ma'am.
Marcia?
Yeah, the numbers that you quoted, Mike, don't match up with what's on this, our summary sheet.
We didn't get we didn't get the numbers until just yesterday. When I put this motion forward, I'm reading it correctly, it says that we were going to be awarded a minimum of $50,000 or a minimum of $25,000. So as of yesterday afternoon, I'm holding it in my possession. I have an award letter from it's actually an award. It came through an email from the state of Michigan that our original award will be $67,588. At the time that I submitted, $67,588.
Okay. Thank you. That explains it.
Yeah, we didn't have that. We didn't have any number at all when we submitted this to go to the board. We just had a minimum of 25,000, and so I put that as a minimum, and I put the maximum of we received 119,000 last year or this year.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Kristen, roll call, please.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey-Wright,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes.
9 yes.
Okay, that motion carries. The final item is WM 20/08-71 to approve and authorize the chair to sign the MDOT 2020 Air Service Capital Improvement and Equipment Grant Contract Number 2020-0747 and authorize the clerk to execute the required resolution.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay. Kristen, did you get who supported that? I couldn't tell. Okay.
I did, yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion on this? Bob Lukens is on the call. Okay, if not, we'll vote. Roll call, please, Kristen.
Commissioner Mahoney,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Loring,
Yes.
Commissioner Skolnick.
Yes.
9 yes.
Okay, that motion passes. All right, the next item is old business. Does anyone have any old business to be brought before the Ways and Means Committee?
I'll add this to old business because you already just talked about it. It's the jail bed allocation. They're out of 542 beds. There's 307 today. So there's 235 that are open.
Okay, thank you,
In the
Mark.
jail.
All right, new business. Is there any new business to be brought before Ways and Means? Now we have public comment. There are 32 people on this on the Zoom meeting. Does anyone have any public comment?
I do, Commissioner Skolnick.
Okay, oh,
It's Beth.
yes, Beth.
Yes, I just wanted to mention that all of you should be getting your budget 2021 budget documents. I understand some of them are being delivered and a few commissioners were willing to come into the office to pick those up. Normally we hand them out to you at a board meeting, but obviously we're not in person at this time. So you'll be getting those documents, and on Tuesday next week, I will be doing my budget presentation. This isn't the public hearing. That's going to be a separate presentation, assuming the board approves the final date of September 8th. But I will be doing a presentation to the commissioners that basically summarizes and points out the highlights of the document next Tuesday.
Beth, are those, for those of us who are going to pick them up, are they in the building? Are they in our mailboxes?
I believe they're down at the at security. Is that right, Kristen?
Correct.
They are correct. They're down at the entrance.
Okay.
Great.
So those, whoever was going to pick them up, we can go there and pick them up then at the end.
Thanks for asking that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Any other, I don't see anybody. Let me just look here.
I don't see anybody with their hand up either.
I don't see one either. Okay, very good. Final board comments? If not, I need a motion to adjourn.
So
So moved.
All those in
Support.
favor, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you very much.